Hello and welcome everyone to the Varsity Tutors StarCourse series, where social media is all around us. You couldn't avoid it if you tried. And in fact, many of you might be here because of an ad you saw on social media, or maybe one of your friends sharing this very session with you. Fortunately, there are strategies for critically consuming social media, for harnessing all that's out there in social media to your own benefit. And we are grateful to have tech founder and CEO Ayah Bdeir here to tell us all about how social media works, what that means for how you should consume it, and some strategies to make social media work for you in the ways that will improve your life, make you happier, more well-rounded, and all of those kind of things. So thanks to Ayah for being here. Before I turn it over to her, I want to give you a couple of instructions here. One, make sure you use the chat box to the right of the screen. One of the great things about technology is that it does allow us to communicate and collaborate across countries and across the world. So use that to answer questions Ayah is going to ask you and to ask questions of your own. In the last 10 minutes or so, I'll interview her with your questions so we can get you as many answers as we can. Also, we're going to talk about using social media for good. You're going to have an opportunity for that in about 40 minutes. We're going to give everybody a chance to lean into the screen, take a selfie with a real tech entrepreneur and visionary with Ayah here. If you upload that to Instagram, you can share that with your network and let people know that you're using social media to learn important lessons and new things. You'll also be entered to win a spot in a Varsity Tutors after school club with that. So make sure you got a camera nearby. Be ready to participate and collaborate. And with that said, let me turn it over to your teacher for today, Ayah Bdeir.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here talking about this super important topic, control social media before it controls you. First of all, I want to say this is not a class to teach you how to gather 5 million followers on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or anything else. This is also not a class where I'm going to be preaching to you to tell you don't use social media. Social media is bad for you and you must turn it off. I actually don't believe those things. I think social media is a great tool if used wisely. I think you can do incredible things with it, but I do believe in the power of technology when we are in control of it. So this class, we're going to cover some of the fundamentals of how social media works. And let me show you some of the sections we're going to cover. So first, we're going to talk about social media is not real life, even though social media oftentimes looks more realistic, looks like people are just shooting themselves in their living room. There is a lot more to it than we think there is. Second, we're going to be talking about the business of social media. Social media is a business. Some of the biggest tech companies in the world have the biggest tech platforms. They are the ones that are making tons of money on social media, and there is a business model behind it, and you are part of the business model and the whole equation. So the more you know, the more you're able to make it work for your advantage. We're also going to be talking about carefully cultivated content. The word content is a buzz. Everybody is talking about being a content creator, the content they consume, the content they want to see online. But we have to be aware that there is a lot of curation that goes on to content that we see and content that we put out. So we're going to talk more about that so that we can really feel empowered to make good choices. In section 4, we're going to talk about critical consumption, being able to continue to use social media, but being able to gauge when it's taking a little bit more space in our lives and when it's affecting us personally or emotionally or our relationships, and being critical of the things that we see. And finally, we're going to talk about a number of little tricks to take control and really be able to flip this relationship with social media so that it's positive, it's additive, it's productive, and most of all, it's creative. Because again, I think that technology is a tool for empowerment. I think technology is a tool for creativity. I think technology is a tool for fun and enrichment. As long as we understand it, as long as we are creative with it and productive with it, we can have a lot of fun. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with a little quiz. I'm going to show you 3 different scenarios, and I'd like you to tell me which of these represents reality. So example number 1. Does science fiction, movies and shows, do they represent reality? So type in the chat what you think. When you see these big images of space, of Mars, when you see these spaceships going around, or when you see things like Star Wars or Dunes or these kinds of movies, or even when you watch Squid Games and you see these giant multiplayer games that are going on, is that does that represent real life? Is that all real? Does that exist? Is it there? I see some answers coming in. No, it's not. It's special effects. It's CGI. Yep, a lot of these things are true, definitely. Let's go to another example. What about when you sit and when you're watching advertising? When you see advertising for food, when you see advertising for products like a mobile phone, shoes, when you see all sorts of advertising, are those created? Are they really floating in space? Are they really in the middle of the universe? Look at this picture, for example. We have a product designer that's doing a photo shoot on aluminum. You have chocolate. Let's try to play it again. You have chocolate that looks like it's floating in space, and really, in fact, what there is mirrors, some aluminum foil, and the product is sitting in the middle, and some ornaments, and look at the effect that you get. Light and shoot. And basically, it looks like there's a giant setup and a giant studio. What about when we talk about an Instagram's influencer photo? Is that real life? Does that represent when somebody's taking a picture of their meal, when somebody's taking a picture of their trip, of their sunset, of their friends, of their outfit? Is that real life? Does that represent real life? I'm seeing people say yes, yes, no, sometimes, not always, it depends. That's true. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's really hard to tell because there's a lot of work that goes into making it look real, but that doesn't mean that it always is. Which brings us to our first sort of foundational thing that we should cover today, which is social media is not real life. Social media, most importantly, is a big form of entertainment. So we have to think about it as in the same way we think about movies and TV. But in this case, there are more people involved than just the director and a bunch of actors that have been hired to do this show. In this case, it's a lot bigger pool of people that are involved, but really it's a form of entertainment, and it's a form of being able to create content to amuse you. It's also a massive advertising platform. And as a massive advertising platform, it's trying to sell you products, it's trying to sell you services, it's trying to invite you to go places. So really, it's not much different than a lot of advertising that you see on TV or within those social media platforms like YouTube, etc. And so as a result, of course, there are actors and there are special effects. Let's look at this video. This is an Instagram influencer model who basically is showing you how filters are showing completely different faces of hers. So let's keep playing it. You can see that with a simple filter, she has makeup or doesn't have makeup. Her eyes are lifted or not lifted. She looks like she's a professionally shot model versus just a young woman next door. The images really vary very differently between one image and the next. And this influencer is showing you that there's a lot of work that goes behind it, and that social media is not real life. There are also teams behind these groups and software. So in this example that you see an image on the left, which is reality, and the image on the right, which is an edited photo. We see this happening a lot, unfortunately, with women and young women online, where they're doing a lot of things to edit their photos to look better, or what they think looks better. They're doing Photoshop, they're using apps like Facetune and all these other apps that are really adjusting their bodies, changing their color complexion, removing what they think are flaws, which of course are not flaws, they're human. But you can see the big difference between the image on the left and the image on the right. And those are not dissimilar from special effects that are used in these space movies, in things like Squid Game and other movies. It's very similar, but sometimes the difference is these pieces of software are on an app and you can use them yourself, as opposed to a big software that costs millions of dollars and have giant teams behind them. So that's another sort of example in how social media is fake. We have a third example in which social media is fake, in that oftentimes you think that when you look at a picture, when an influencer or a content creator is speaking directly to the camera, they by themselves, they're walking around, they're posing in front of a beautiful view, or they're talking to you from their living room. Many times they're not alone. Many times they have teams behind them. The teams are professional photographers or maybe even self-taught photographers, but they are there. They help them create content. They create content calendars. They're doing storyboarding. They're looking at what trends are available online and trying to hit the trends that are being talked about. So there is work behind that really simple, casual video that you see online. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. The video could be very compelling. It could be funny. You could be learning tons of things from it. But I just want you to know that this is not something that's as spontaneous as it looks and as simple as it looks. In fact, you can see in this next slide, there are some cases where there are groups and companies and whole cohorts of people that are working on this together. The picture that you see is the Hype House. This is a stage, this is a location that's almost like a reality TV location where a bunch of really famous influencers like Addison Rae and others live together, and all they do all day, every day is produce content for social media. They are helping each other, they're shooting each other, they're inspiring each other, they're brainstorming, they're either creating trends or jumping on trends, and that's how their content is coming out. And no wonder they have millions and millions of followers, and they're able to kind of keep up the pace of all this content that is created because of these big teams and big resources that exist. Which takes us to the next point. Social media is fake, but its impact is very real. We know, I hope you know, that social media does have an impact on our mood. It does have an impact on how we feel about ourselves. It does have an impact on our relationships with ourselves and with other people. And that's now been researched and measured. And I'm sure you heard recently that there is a former Facebook employee called Frances Haugen that revealed a lot of internal documents from inside Facebook, now called Meta, where she says that Facebook is aware of all the impacts that social media has on our lives, even the negative effects, but also they choose to ignore them. So we have to know what those impacts are, and it's important for us to know so that we can detect them in ourselves when they happen. Social media's impact is real. 30% of teenage girls, according to this report by Frances Haugen that I just mentioned, 30% of teenage girls have developed negative body image issues because of social media. That means that girls are influenced by this more than boys, according to this report. And it's saying that girls feel bad about their own bodies. And when they feel bad about their own bodies, Instagram makes it worse. This particular example is about Instagram, but you can also think about it for other social media platforms. But Instagram in particular, they say when you're feeling bad about yourself physically because of seeing beauty videos, because of seeing influencers or your friends posting these unattainable images, you feel bad about yourself and you feel worse about yourself, in fact, through this platform. But in general, this is not just affecting girls. Teens in general, 24%, almost a quarter of teenagers using social media saying that it's affecting them mostly negatively. Of course, there are some people that say it affects them positively or doesn't have an effect on them at all. But 25%, a quarter of people, 1 every 4 people, teenagers, is saying that it's affecting them negatively, and that's important. The chart that you see, we're going to put it up right now on the right. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's an important chart, so I want to show you the details. So if you squint a little bit, you'll see the title is Higher Standards Decrease Self-Esteem Until They're Recognized as Being Unattainable. This is a chart about Instagram in particular. What it tells us is when we think that the image that we're looking at or the video that we're looking at in Instagram, when we think that it is attainable, that it's something that I should be able to look like or be like, then my self-esteem drops dramatically. But then in the middle of the chart, you see a line. When we realize that that image or video or that aesthetic is unattainable, that's when my self-esteem starts rising. Because when I look at a superstar, a supermodel, or an actress, I can tell that her life is very different than mine, that she has teams, that she spends hours getting ready and has designer clothing and has teams kind of making her look a certain way, and production studios that are working on making her music videos or her movies look a certain way. I know it's unattainable for a person like me sitting at home. But when I think that by looking at Instagram, a person I'm looking at is just like me in their living room, living a normal life. I think to myself that maybe I should be able to look like that. That makes me feel bad about myself. So that's really important. And this is why we went through the first section where I was really detailing how social media is in fact not as real as we think it is. It's important to know that it is just another form of entertainment, of modeling, of production, as we see those other mediums. All right, so let's keep going. Oh, I should mention also, other than the body positivity impacts that social media has, of course, some of the effects that teenagers particularly have mentioned as having a negative effect on them. They say that social media has led to more bullying. Of course, there's bullying and there's sometimes hateful comments on social media that affects our moods. Also, they perceive social media to help spread rumors. If a rumor kind of emerges, it can spread on social media a lot faster, even when there's nothing behind it. And also, teens have stated that it harms their relationship. Or it distorts their feeling of reality. So these are all things that other teenagers are feeling. So I'm listing them because I want you to be aware of them so that you know when they happen to you. You know if you're feeling kind of bad about the world, you're seeing like misinformation, you're seeing rumors, you're seeing bullying. Those are things that you're not alone feeling. You should know that a lot of other teenagers and adults, people of all ages feel, and those are some of the impacts and negative effects of social media, which is why we want to take control of them. All right, let's keep going. So let's do another little quiz to kick us off into the section called the business of social media. Like I mentioned, social media is a business. This is not a charity. These are not little toys done by small groups of people and games that are just for entertainment. Some of the largest tech companies in the world are behind these social media platforms. We're talking Google, we're talking Facebook, meaning Meta, we're talking TikTok, etc. Some of these biggest companies in the world are behind these platforms. So if there's so much money behind them, where is the money? How much do you pay to use your favorite social media app? Tell me in your comments, how much are you paying to use Instagram? How much are you paying to use Facebook? How much are you paying to use Snapchat? Or TikTok or Twitch? How much are you paying to use any of these platforms? Are you paying? No, everybody says not paying, nothing, not paying, time. Yep. So we are not paying to use these platforms. So how are these platforms making money? How are they paying their employees? How do they have these fancy offices? How are they doing all these developments on their apps? The reality is we as users are not paying because we are the product. Let me explain what that means. When you are using something and you are not paying for the product, it means you are the product. In the case of social media, you download one of these apps or use one of these web platforms. You tell the app a bunch about you, your age, where you're from, etc. The app starts tracking what you like, what you look at, how long you look at something, what you engage with, what you comment on, what you share. And so the app starts knowing more and more about you. And as it knows more and more about you, it builds a profile on you. And when it builds a profile on you, then it can give this profile to advertisers, meaning to companies making products and services, and those advertisers now can reach you to sell their products and services. So for example, if I'm a company that is making a product that's, let's say, some clothing for let's say Halloween costumes, or I'm selling clothing, beach clothing, or I'm selling some kind of a phone, I'm selling a game, I want to reach people to buy my product of a certain age group that are in a certain area. Maybe these are the people that like a game that's a competitor of mine, or I want to reach people who are living in sunny areas where it's sunny and they need beach clothing. I can start creating targeted advertising to these groups, and I use the information that those social media apps have created about you in terms of your profile. So when those companies want to sell their products, they give money to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok, etc., and are able to target you to advertise their products. So that's how you are the product, and that's why the company makes money even though you're not paying for the product. Now, don't forget that part of what you are telling the app is the things that don't make you feel good. And so there's a lot of information that is shared, which is why it's really important to know the ins and outs of how these social media platforms work. Now let's talk about how these companies keep you on the platform. If you are the product and they want you or your eyeballs or your time on these platforms as long as possible so they can show you as many ads as possible or know more about you, then what is their number one priority? Their number one priority is to keep you on the app. And the way they measure and they optimize that is by measuring your engagement. Your engagement means, are you liking? Are you subscribing? Are you commenting? Did you click through the link? Meaning, did this ad compel you to click to go see the product? How far did you scroll? Did you scroll over something, or did you watch it in whole? Did you stop the video? Did you scroll past it? All these pieces of information are recorded, and the social media company, these apps, are trying to learn from it and improve their algorithm all the time so that they can keep you on the app. And here's where it gets tricky. Let's go to the next slide. Actually, before I go there, in them trying to keep you on these platforms, keep you engaged, what these companies have found is that you tend to share when two emotions are created from what you see. Either it makes you happy or it makes you outraged. But they've also discovered that making you outraged compels you to share and engage more than liking. So oftentimes these social media platforms are recommending more and more outrageous things. They either make you angry, or they make you upset, or they make you want to share because it's like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. I gotta share with my friends. So oftentimes you share more when you're outraged. And so that's starting to get baked into the engagement of these platforms. We're gonna talk a little bit about how that has negative effects later, but I just wanted to kind of bring this up now so you think about engagement in that way. All right, now we're ready for the next slide. Now we talked about how you are the product, and me too. I'm not talking about you kind of in any external way. I'm a consumer of social media just like you are. So we're the product. Our profiles are being shown to advertisers who want to sell us their products. But now we're also the funder. So you may see this happen more and more. TikTok, for example, has a creator fund. It's a pool of money that they make available to creators that are creating content. And when you have thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of followers, they pay you for views. The more somebody has views on their videos, the more they get paid on a daily basis. More and more, we're seeing that these creator funds are going away. And now TikTok is asking us, the users, to pay those creators. So you see this new introduction of gifting at TikTok, where we're being asked to support the creators that we like. I have nothing against that. I think it's important to support artists and creators and designers, musicians that you like. I think you help them make their art, and this is really good. It's a good thing for us to do. But I just want you to be aware that this is part of the companies sort of transferring the cost to the user, to us, so that we are the ones that are funding the creators. So we have to just be aware and not let that become something that is automatic, that we do all the time without thinking, that we think is our responsibility, because we are also paying with our time, we're paying with our attention, and we're paying with the advertising that we're sitting through. So we have to be really careful about the things that we support on top of that, and really make sure that we're not feeling pressured or feeling that we sort of are unworthy if we're not spending money on these platforms. All right, let's keep going. Let's go for another quiz now. We've talked about creators, we talked about influencers. Content creators is how often they, this category is listed because many of them now are on many platforms. So content creators is how we refer to them or refer to themselves. How do they do their job? Tell me what is the day-to-day of an influencer according to you. So write in the chat what you think. Post videos, yep. Take pictures, yeah. Post videos. Create pranks, yeah. I love prank videos, they're really funny. Travel, take pictures, eat, yeah, lots of food, of course. They're basically sitting, they're coming up with ideas. They're also partnering with companies. Take note specifically of when you see creators post content and they have on the top hashtag ad or promoted content or partnership. These are some of the tells that tell you that they've partnered with a company in order to help them promote the product. Then you know that they may or may not be using this face cream. They may or may not be, using these gym shorts, but they're doing a paid partnership with that company that's now paid them to help promote. Again, nothing wrong with it. If they like it, I'm supportive of brands finding ways to find their customers, but we have to know that it's not just they happen to, the influencer happens to want to share this information. So to think about influencers doing their job, they're coming up with ideas, they're coming up with sets, they're picking locations. Really, they are like actors. They are like actors that are staging locations and particular images for us to see, which brings us to this idea of carefully cultivated content. Content is not arbitrary. Content is not just things that happens in their life that they happen to snap. They're thinking about it and they're staging a lot of photos. Number one rule of social media, people only show you what they want you to see. So this is a really funny image I found online, where you see an Instagram influencer doing a headstand in a beautiful park and everything looks amazing. But really outside the image, you see her friend is holding her feet up and sort of pretending that the headstand is a sort of internally done headstand. So this happens a lot. The next image that you see is showing you a similar thing with a prop. Social media is like this reflection that you see in the mirror. You see an apple, it's beautiful, it's round, it's shiny, but really on the other side of the apple, this apple is eaten. So we see this a lot with food images, travel images, a lot of, tourist stuff like that, even fashion, where the image is sort of perfected just as is for the image or the video, but really sort of reality outside is not the same. So I only say this because in the case where these images make you feel bad about your life or make you feel that why am I not going to as many cool places, or why does my food look as delicious? Know that, take it with a grain of salt. Know that it's not always the case, and they're only showing you what they want you to see. But, this is not something that only content creators, professional content creators are doing. Our friends are doing it too. We are doing it as well. We often take pictures and then look at the picture and we're like, oh, it's not good enough. Let me move the camera angle here. Let me change the lighting there. Let me rotate this so it looks better, or it looks thinner, or it looks rounder, or it looks more plump, etc. We're doing it too. And we're affected by the engagement that our posts have. And so we should be aware that this is happening and that we're not leaning too far into what we're posting in order for other people to like it. Because ultimately, social media should be about us sharing what makes us feel good and empowering and something that we want our friends to know about and people around us to know about. But we don't necessarily want to make it sort of something obsessive where we're spending too much time or too much mind share on sort of faking the exact right photo. That's sort of not, that's where we know it went too far. Which brings me to rule number 2 of social media. There is an actor that we are not all seeing on a daily basis. an invisible actor in social media called the algorithm. The algorithm behind all these platforms, and there's a different algorithm for each of these. You know, TikTok has an algorithm different than Snapchat, different than YouTube, etc. But they all have their own algorithms, and the algorithm's job is to primarily show you what it wants you to see. So the algorithm is picking what shows up in your feed. So let's look at the next slide. If you're on TikTok, your For You page is populated by the algorithm. If you're on YouTube, the next recommended video is recommended by your algorithm. Same thing on all the other social platforms. So the algorithm is really sort of directing your journey, and it's taking you on this journey. And its work is invisible, so you don't necessarily know how it's doing it. But the more research is coming out on these tech platforms, the more we know how they work. And that's why we're able to sort of manipulate it ourselves or take control of it ourselves, so that we're not sort of going in these rabbit holes that may not be beneficial. We've now learned through some of the whistleblower campaigns that we heard about, some research and a lot of reports from people that are affected or have worked on it, we know that the algorithms are trying to prioritize you being on the app, and they're trying to prioritize you being engaging with the content. And if you remember what we said earlier, engagement is highest when you are outraged, when you are surprised, when you want to share. You are more likely to want to share when something is making you angry or upset or afraid. If you look at the picture on the left side, this is an example. This is just a mock-up that a reporter put together of a news feed that says, this is how you should be angry. Look at this nice thing. This is why you should be afraid. It's no different than newspaper headlines. No different than magazine covers. They are meant to make you surprised or want to click. That's why they call them clickbait. They're meant to sort of elicit an emotional response in you, and that's how they keep you on the app. So remember the actor that is the algorithm. The actor is something that you don't necessarily see, but they are there. Which brings us to sort of this holistic image, which is the whole world is a stage. Again, remember what I said early on in the class. Social media is no different than a movie set. It's just a very long movie set happening at all hours of the day, and it has a much bigger crew, and the crew has professionals and unprofessionals alike. Think of people as actors, think of the content as a script, think of backgrounds as locations, and think of algorithms as producers. All these different elements are coming together to produce the content that you see. And this becomes even more important now that we know that the metaverse is coming. Facebook, who has rebranded into Meta, has a metaverse that is launching in the near future. The metaverse is meant to sort of blend virtual reality and actual reality together, so that you're going in and out of real reality into virtual reality and back. When you're going to at work, or when you're going to meetings or concerts, or when you're experiencing games, or when you're socializing with your friend, you start having this relationship where you're in and out of virtual reality all the time. And so it brings up a lot of questions about what kind of avatars are we going to create about ourselves? What kind of bodies are we going to associate? What are the people that we're going to meet? How are we going to interact with them? And this is why it's important to know all the stuff that we talked about already, how the social media platforms work, what they're trying to do, and how they're trying to make money, and what kind of content you will be interacting with, so that you are able to interact with this metaverse, learn about it, take what you want from it, benefit from it, but don't let it take over your life, and don't let it affect you in a negative way. All right. So we're continuing with our journey using social media. So we're starting to now talk more proactively about how to use social media. This section is called Critically Consuming Social Media. Again, this is not a class to tell you, turn your phone off, put your phone away, don't use social media, get off all these platforms. That's not realistic. First of all, it's not going to happen. Second of all, they're fun. Third of all, that's where our friends are. It's how we're learning about what's happening in the world. We're reading news, we're connecting with people. It's fun stuff. So I'm not going to tell you that. But I do want you to have all the tools at your disposal to be able to use it and critically consume it. And so I want to start with a question. Do you think it's legal, or should it be legal? Is it and should it be? To use filters on your photos? Tell me in the chat what you think about photo filters, similar to the ones we saw earlier in the talk, where you saw this young lady having makeup filters, etc. Is it legal? Should it be legal? Yes, yes, of course. Why not? Wait, I thought so, maybe not. It shouldn't be. Interesting. So this is an active conversation happening now among the tech companies, also some governments that are getting involved. Recently, Norway issued a law that bans influencers from retouching their photos unless they state that they've been retouched. Meaning, in Norway, you're no longer allowed to put a picture of yourself with a photo filter, a makeup filter, a Facetune kind of thing, without saying that the photo has been retouched. And that's produced a lot of encouragement from some countries and also controversy in others. But it's an interesting idea. Laws are catching up. Laws that are saying that we have to disclose when something is fake, because if we pretend that it's real, it causes self-esteem issues that we talked about early on in this class. So they want these content creators to acknowledge when something has been retouched. And I think that's really helpful. I think in the same way that we've all learned that commercials that have cars flying are staged, I think it's good for us to know that these individual photos are also staged. Again, in a lot of cases, already what we know exists is hashtag ad, hashtag partnership, hashtag sponsored post, etc. Those exist, but expect to see more of these laws that are catching on. In the UK, in fact, recently there's a new law that's been launched to sort of force tech companies to redesign their products with young users in mind. Right now, a lot of social media companies just say in their terms of service, do not use if you're under 13, but the reality is kids under 13 are using them. So the UK is saying these tech companies have the responsibility to redesign their products with kids in mind so that no harmful content, no harmful algorithms, etc., are sort of sneaking in to our experiences. All right, so what does consuming critically mean? Again, unrealistic to avoid social media. Let's not bother with saying that. But always remind yourself it's acting and editing. Knowledge is power. You knowing this is a lot of power. Check in with yourself and with your feelings. Remember some of the feelings that I mentioned. Feeling negative effects, feeling body image issues, feeling depression, feeling sort of isolated from your friends or your family or your relationships, feeling bad about your life. Just check in with yourself and just know that if you feel that way, that's some of the effects that we are warning about in social media. Know that you're not alone. Know that some of them have been designed in a way to create these effects. So don't feel bad about yourself. When that happens, know that you need to step away a little bit and sort of take some time for yourself. Be an active social media user. Active social media user means not just taking the posture of consuming and doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is when you're looking on your phone and you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling mindlessly, and sort of you stay in the same position for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You could do that for many, many hours. So just be aware of this and don't let yourself go into this doom scrolling sort of mindset, because it will make you feel bad about yourself. It's like eating a lot of junk food. It might feel good in the minute that you're eating it, but you're going to feel sick afterwards. You're going to want to throw up afterwards. It does not have a good effect, and the effect will stay with you. So just be aware. I think the thing that I always tell young people that I work with or have relationships with is the best thing you could do for yourself is be in charge of your own body and your own mind, and be aware of what is happening to you through interactions that you're having with the world and through technology in particular. Those are the best things that you could do for yourself, and that will also help adults around you know that you are aware and that you are confident and that you are knowledgeable and that you are in control. All right, let's keep going. So we have our last quiz now. let's talk about the good stuff about social media. So we talked about some of the risks, we talked about some of the business model that we may not love or know about it, but there's some good stuff about social media. Let's talk about what the good stuff is. Tell me what are the things that you love about social media. What do you use it for? What do you use? TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, others, what do you use them for? Even Roblox. Connect with friends, chat with friends, stay in touch, learn things, yep. It's fun, it's entertaining. Talent, become a star. Yeah, absolutely. All these things are true. All these things are true. We know many popular performers were discovered on social media. Many friendships were made on social media. Many people learned how to cook on social media or clean or do all sorts of things. So yes, all these things are absolutely true. And so we want to continue doing those things and be able to do them in a way that puts us in power and us at the center. So let's talk about some little tricks. Now that we've talked, these are the tricks that I call taking control. Remember the title for the class was social media, control social media before it controls you. If you're controlling it, great, then you can really make it do whatever you want, work for you, and really take the best out of social media. Number one, train the algorithm. Remember, we talked about the algorithm is the actor that is invisible, that we don't always see, but this actor is always around recommending content to us and recommending things that we should look at and optimizing for engagement, optimizing for outrage. So we have to train the algorithm. When you see that your feed, your For You page, your homepage is starting to look negative, is starting to look conspiracy theorist, there's misinformation in it, you're starting to see negative stuff or topics that you don't care about, or too many things that are superficial or about artificial beauty, etc. Know that it's time that you retrain your algorithm. Unlike things that you don't like, use that button proactively. It's called different things on different platforms. On TikTok, you keep holding and you could not see that content. On Twitter, you can mute it. Different platforms have different names for this feature, but you can unlike things that you don't want to see or that you think are harmful. Report when you see abuse, when you see something inappropriate, when you see bullying, report the content that you see. Don't use reporting as a way to get back at somebody just because you have a tiff going on with someone. That's not a nice use of this button. Report something that you think is harmful for others and dangerous. Also, engage, proactively engage with the content that you like. You see a video, a DIY video about how to redesign your bedroom, or you see a very cool cooking video or a dance video, engage with it, comment on it, say what you like about it, share it. If you share it, if you send it as a DM or you share it with your friends, that engagement is recorded really high up and you'll see more content like it. And also, most importantly, turn off notifications so that when you post something, you don't need to receive an email or notification a second every time somebody likes your video, every time somebody likes your photo. You don't need to see that. And you especially don't need to see it in the middle of the night and be woken up by it and have your phone and your iPad and whatever, your tablet ringing and getting you to go back over and over again. You'll just check it a few times a day and you'll feel good about it, and that's okay. But it's really important to turn off notifications. To also turn off autoplay. Autoplay in many video platforms is already turned off by default for certain ages. But if it's not turned off for you, turn it off. You don't need to. You can go look for stuff that you want to look for. And when you're inspired, you can do your own research and you can sort of navigate the web the way you like it. But you don't need autoplay to be driving your journey. All right. Step 2 in taking control. Be nice and practice privacy. Be nice. This is true for any platform. It's also true for real life. If you don't say something in real life, don't say it on the internet. If you want to share something, remember what you share will stay online forever. It will stay online when you're 15, when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40. It will stay online forever. So think about the things that you share. Practice privacy. Don't share private locations, don't share addresses, don't share private information that you don't want to be on the web. And just, of course, be nice. And I don't think that needs an explanation. Then number 3, take breaks. This I've already mentioned a few times, I'll mention it again. Taking breaks, just stepping away from the thing that you're doing, taking stock of how you feel, making sure your mental state is a good place, your physical state is a good place, you've eaten, you've showered, you're communicating with people, just take breaks. In China, the TikTok version of China, it has a lot of limitations for young users, 40 minutes per day. I think that's a bit dramatic, and I don't like impositions like that. But the reasoning they use is sound, is because they don't want this sort of endless hours of doom scrolling on this platform. So that's something to think about. They also happen to, I think, restrict use between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. so that sleep is not disrupted. Again, we don't need to be told these things. They make sense. So we should practice them for ourselves. All right, next up, let's use social media for fun stuff. Learning, networking, getting exposed to people and content that we otherwise wouldn't be. The social media has incredible power. Harness it for good. Many people have discovered communities that they never knew they were interested in. Things like Book Talk, where they can sort of read books on TikTok. Clean Talk, people who are obsessed with cleaning, learn about each other. In this case, we see a Varsity Tutors professor, a StarCourse teacher, the chemistry teacher, Phil, is teaching really cool chemistry experiments on TikTok. That's stuff that your teacher may not do this in class, so it might be really fun for you to experience it. I love watching dance videos. I spend a lot of time watching them. I try to practice the tricks in front of the mirror. I often fail, but it's fun for me. It's really something that I think sort of gets me moving and gets me to experience music that I wouldn't otherwise have access to, or moves that I wouldn't have access to. So find your tribe, find your inspiration, find things that are creative. There's also a lot of arts and crafts. There's also tricks. There's Rube Goldberg type machines. There's pranks. Things that really get you moving, get you making. There's sort of big contraptions that you can make out of Lego. There's big contraptions that you can make out of household materials. All these incredible things that you can make, learn on TikTok are really good to learn. There's even a lot of homework support on some of these platforms. Tricks for math, tricks for how to remember history. Sometimes people are making videos for lessons that you may find boring at school. You may find good videos for them. So these are the kinds of things that are good to engage with social media on, because these are things that you have to learn anyway for school. So if you find funner ways to learn them, then they will stay with you and you'll enjoy the learning process. And then finally, take it offline. This is one of my favorite uses of social media, where your jumping off point is social media, but then you basically take it offline and go do something in the world that you otherwise wouldn't do had you not sort of seen that experience. In this example, we see this TikTok user that became very famous. I can't remember if she became famous on Instagram or TikTok, but her name is Alexis Nicole Nelson. She lives in Ohio. She calls herself the Black Forager. She goes out in the world, goes out to the forest, in her garden, in her neighbor's garden, etc., and goes all sorts of places and forages everything on the ground. She finds mushrooms, she finds leaves, she finds all sorts of trees, picks things up and explains to us what she's looking at. And it's really gotten me excited to go out and find things myself. She tells you these things are dangerous, these things are poisonous, these things you can make into tea, this thing you can cook this way. It's so much fun to really think about it. And it's also, she talks about how she learned how to connect with her roots as well as her culture and indigenous culture. And that's a really fun way to sort of connect with culture as well, to be able to experience it in real life and experience it in 3 dimension and experience it in nature. So I highly recommend that you look for some of these take it offline experiences. They could be about photography, they could be about drawing, they could be about music and performance, they could be about foraging, they could be about all sorts of things. Find sort of this something that might interest you. And if you don't know what it is, try a bunch of things. Something you will find will keep you coming back. And that's something that's worth investing in. So this sort of takes us to the end of our class. I want to go back and say, the most important thing is for you to have fun, to feel good, to feel like you're learning and evolving, using social media to explore the world that is outside of your immediate circle, a world that is many, many thousands of miles away, thousands of kilometers away that you may not be able to travel to, meeting people that you may not be able to meet in person. This is what the power of social media is, seeing things that you otherwise wouldn't see. So use it for good, use it to feel better, use it to grow, use it to be inspired, use it to be creative, use it to be productive, and do all of that by just knowing some of the pitfalls that can happen while you're doing that. And when you get near them, just take a moment, step away, and kind of course correct, and have fun, and hope to see you online.
Hey, thank you so much, Ayah. That's what I love, that was actionable recommendations, right? It's easy to complain about social media. We've been hearing all the stats about how it makes people feel, but knowing, one, it's not going away. In fact, like we saw with the metaverse, it's only going to become more of a part of our lives. Technology never really goes backward, but there are things you can do to really make it work for you. And I appreciate you taking the time to give those recommendations. And I know from the comments you guys have been having out there, people are really internalizing all that, and we love that. Which brings me to two things here. We're a little bit over time. We're going to get to at least one or two questions. If you guys have questions, continue to get them in, and then we'll do a little bit of an ironic moment. We've been talking about social media and some of the pitfalls, particularly with photos, but we do want to give everybody a chance. We're here with a real tech founder, an entrepreneur, and the founder of littleBits, and an entrepreneur in so many other ways. So it's a great opportunity for all of us to lean into the screen, get a picture with Ayah here, and if we post that to our social networks, we'll let people know that we're using social media to learn new things, to network, and all of that. So Ayah, we're going to go back full screen to you. If you guys all have your cameras out here, if you put this up on Instagram, tag Ayah Bdeir and Varsity Tutors, you'll be entered to win more learning opportunities with Varsity Tutors through our after school clubs. So have those cameras ready. We're going to give everybody about 10 seconds here to take a picture, and then we'll get to some of your questions.
Oops.
All right, everybody got those pictures. We'll put Ayah back full screen when she answers a couple of your questions here too. So if you didn't get them yet, you're waiting to get the perfect angle, or you've got your friends kind of holding your feet up, so it can be a headstand selfie like we learned earlier. You have one or two more opportunities for that. You guys have been asking some great questions, really participating quite a bit. The internet is amazing for collaboration and creation, so thanks for taking advantage of that. Couple questions we have for you, because I know we're in overtime here. One was, people were pretty curious kind of earlier on when you were talking about how we're teaching the algorithm all about us. To what degree are all these apps, spying on us? Should we be nervous? What are some tactics to make sure we're not telling, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, too much that we wouldn't want them to know? Can you tell us a little bit more about how they're gathering information, what they're using, and how we can be careful about giving too much out?
The apps are gathering a lot of information about us. You have to think about it like you're in the presence of a security camera. When you go into a store where you're shopping, there's a security camera there, or you're in a deli, etc. The security camera is there watching you, and sort of recording your behavior. Is there somebody behind the security camera watching at every moment and following up with what you're doing? Maybe, maybe not, we don't know, but this information is being captured. And so we don't know necessarily all of what these companies are doing with the information, but they do know when we're clicking, what we're clicking on. They do know the kinds of things we're interested in. And that's how algorithms become very individualized and start to really recommend stuff that's for us. So yes, we do have to be careful. I wouldn't become paranoid about it. I would just be aware. And if you do want to dive a lot deeper into it, there's a lot online about how you can change your privacy settings, how you can, erase cookies, how you can make things not be shared, how you can do incognito videos, browser sessions, stuff like that. There are ways to go around it, but they do make it intentionally complicated. So I think the best thing is just to be aware that content is being, and your behavior is being tracked, and sort of, use it accordingly.
Great, thank you. Yeah, some of those privacy settings take a while. I remember the first time someone told me about location services and going into my phone and realizing I don't know what I did last week. My phone knows everything I did last week and is telling, Facebook and Twitter and all of them. It was a little bit scary, but you can kind of, like you said, there's tutorials out there to be able to find ways to enable some of that privacy. What about, you give some good recommendations. We have a lot of questions on, okay, we know the algorithm is recommending us things and we should train the algorithm. I know you gave some recommendations. Do you have any more to add on ways that you can train the algorithm to give it what you want to? And I guess I'll ask kind of a follow-up of that. Is it really that the algorithm is just designed to give us more of what we interact with, or is it maybe a little more nefarious than that? Or to what extent are we really able to train the algorithm?
Well, part of the criticism of social media companies is that they're not revealing a lot about how their algorithms work. And so we don't know. What we know is things that we're inferring by watching and using whatever research they are putting out. We do know that they care about engagement. We do know that they care about keeping you on the platform. We do know that they want to show you promoted products and they want to connect you with advertisers that want to sell products. So we know that there's an engagement portion, there's a commerce portion, and they are also serving you things that you like and more of it. But sometimes it becomes narrower and narrower and narrower, and you start noticing that your feed or your homepage or your For You page becomes so narrow and it becomes thousands and thousands of the same kind of thing. When you see that happening, when you see your world getting smaller, remember, social media is meant to make your world bigger, not smaller. So make sure that you step away, search for new things, go tag other content, go interact with things that are outside of your feed so that you can kind of reboot that algorithm and retrain it.
Great, thank you. And one other thing you mentioned before that I really liked was sort of reward the content creators that are creating the content you want to see, right? They're rewarded by, the applications, by, the more likes they get, followers, more interactivity, they get served to other people. And so you can kind of help create the reward system to give the world more of what you like to see, and we can work together to make it a better place. One more question for you here. Somebody sort of asked about sort of the relationship between follower count. I think the question was, should your follower count, dictate how famous a celebrity is or how you feel about yourself? And I'll add another one on there. So should we look at follower count as a way to be able to assess if something's reliable or worthy of following? How do you think about follower counts? Since that's one of the big things that they always put out in front of us.
Follower count comes from many different places. First of all, the earlier you are on the platform, the more likely you are to have higher follower count. So some of the people that have the biggest follower accounts on TikTok and Instagram, and Twitter, they just happen to start using them very, very early. The second thing is follower count is higher for people that are using the platform. Very simply, if you're posting once a week, you're not going to get your follower account very high. And so people who are really relying on these platforms for a business or for engagement or to promote something that they're doing, they have to engage with the platform many, many, many times a day and post all the time. They're posting 3-4 times a day sometimes. And every day of the week. So I think that, we have to remember that that these platforms strive on you putting out more content because they want content to be infinite. In terms of, is it reliable? You can use the verified signals a little bit, but not so reliably. There's good content, even if it's not verified. Ultimately, even that process, we don't know as much about how these companies are giving away the verified tag and the check marks, etc. So I think, it can help a little bit, but use your judgment. Make sure the people that you're following are not saying harmful things, racist things, biased things. They're not spreading misinformation. They're quoting good sources. There's not kind of offensive content on there, things like that. Use your own judgment. You can also usually see by the quality of the conversation in their comments. People, who are good people will keep good hygiene in their comments. They won't allow things to become about bullying and discrimination and things like that. So I think that you can rely a little bit on the follower account. account and if something's popular. But really, as always, the internet's your responsibility. So, use your own judgment.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much. And again, to your earlier point, your follows and likes, you're kind of voting with that to show people more of those. You have a little bit of control over some of those things as well. So I thank you so much to you for just really good insight. And like I said, kind of not running away from social media. We know there are problems with it, but we can harness it to use it for great purposes. Like I said, a lot of people found out about this class or can, follow your feeds and get exposed to more entrepreneurs and kind of visionary leadership in tech and everything. So thank you for giving us the optimistic side as well as some of the cautionary tales. Thanks to all of you out there for really amazing questions and participation. It was a whole lot of fun to see everyone using the internet for collaboration and learning the way that it probably is at its best. And so with that, if you want to share this with your social networks, we're going to put up the official handles here. So you can enter the contest to win a spot in an after school club with Varsity Tutors. To tag, put more good out in the world of social media by letting people know that this session exists. It has been recorded. If you come back to this link, you can check it out again later. So thanks to all of you. Thanks one more time to Ayah, and we'll see everybody back here soon.